This is the granddaddy of them all. On the Manhattan Beach Pier, this is the home to beach volleyball. We can't wait to have you with us through the entirety of the Manhattan Beach Open, the second Gold Series event on the 2022 AVP Tour. Welcome to the Manhattan Beach Open. The surf has been pumping, as has the volleyball here on Stadium Court, and we're about to get into some men's action. Hi, everyone. I'm Cameron Irwin alongside Olympic gold medalist and USC head beach coach Dane Blanton, and now we've got the guys about to take over, Miles Evans and Andy Benesh. We've seen Andy Benesh do some steady work now. He's playing alongside Miles Evans. They've had some competition, whether that's in different AVP events or even internationally. What could they bring to the table?
Well, they bring a lot to the table. Andy Benesh, this is his season, you know. He won in Austin with Phil Dahlhauser, and he's shown that he can play with just about anybody. I think Andy Benesh is the future of men's volleyball for the United States, and I would love to see him step up here because I think he's got that momentum rolling. I think we're going to see him representing the U.S. on an international stage sooner than later.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's meet who is going to be facing off against them. We've got Mark Sherman down on the sand to get you our introductions. Take it away, Mark.
Uh-oh. It is time to send one team home and send one team on in the contenders bracket. It is win or go home time here on Stadium Court. Loser gets 13th and goes home very, very sad. Winner plays on. Let's meet the teams, shall we? And these two guys, you know what, they spent some time apart this year, but I am oh so happy they are back together. I love watching them play together. The guys out of NorCal representing Santa Cruz, California. This first guy grew up in Long Beach. Now he's up in Santa Cruz out of UC Santa Cruz. Let me hear it for Jake Landel. And his partner, originally out of the San Jose area, still repping Santa Cruz, but now lives down here in the home of beach volleyball in sunny Hermosa Beach, riding up and down the Strand all day long. Ladies and gentlemen, let me hear it for Mr. Lev Priima. And their opponents, this first guy, Mr. Santa Barbara, out of Dos Pueblos High School in Goleta, grew up in Santa Barbara, went to Santa Barbara City, on to UC Santa Barbara. Let me hear it loud and proud for Mr. Miles. Yes. And his partner, let me see, yeah, the clouds are burning off. Now I can see your hometown. Out of Rancho Palos Verdes, California. Out of USC, before that, PV High, and now an AVP champion. Let me hear it for Andy Benesh.
All right, Jake Landel and Lev Priima facing off against Miles Evans, the double plural, and Andy Benesh. Miles Evans will be the defense behind the big time block. Andy Benesh, who you mentioned, could very likely be the future of men's beach volleyball. There's been a few of those. You think about Miles Partain also. Add that name to the list. The winner from just a few weeks ago in Atlanta. Just 20 years old did he find his first title. Miles Evans with a nice serve, hiding behind the block. Not quite finding the defense. First point, Landel Priima.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting matchup. Remember, both these teams have one loss, so the loser will go home, the winner will advance. So when the pressure and the stakes are high like this, you see some players really step up. And I think the fact that Andy Benesh has already won a championship this year, that's going to help him tremendously on this stage.
Andy Benesh, just 27 years old. Originally out of Rancho Palos Verdes. 6'9" is Andy Benesh. And he's got a tough serve. Crafty is Jake Landel, though. He's kind of one of those slimy volleyball players, and I mean that with the most sincere
that's
compliment.
a description.
Because, no, I mean, just the way he plays and his style and how he finds points, he just sneaks around you and
I might call that crafty.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't know about slimy, but.
Hey, I'm coming up with some new adjectives.
But he definitely knows the game well. And look at that little poke shot, little lefty to the deep court. Like that a lot.
I feel like I'm going to be hearing about that slimy comment now. I meant it kindly.
You see how I separated myself from it as fast as I could?
Thanks, Dane. Way to back your partner. Our partnership is falling apart already. There's a nice shot from Lev Priima.
The chemistry's deteriorating.
We got a long way to go. Look at Lev, the full-time blocker. This guy loves to hit the ball, even though you saw just a nice off-speed there. That's a heavy swing, Miles Evans.
Miles Evans looking so solid, in incredible shape, got a quick arm. And check him out from the right side, comes in and goes cross-body before the block can even form.
Miles Evans had his rookie season back in 2016. He's also one of some height at 6'4", originally out of Santa Barbara, California. Didn't really start playing volleyball, at least on the indoor side, until his sophomore year of high school. Winner of this match will face Buttinger and Field. The loser will take 13th, as there's one heck of an angle, and not towards the sideline. That thing is just straight down.
Yeah, Andy Benesh is a beast at the net. Not someone you want to mess with. You don't really want to serve him. I'd go away from him because of his range and because of that height.
I like that look from Lev.
Yeah, Lev Priima making it look easy. Cross body, kind of faked that he was going to hit that cross court shot, then goes cross body down the line and put nice action on the ball. And, you know, another thing is that they may be serving Andy Benesh to avoid beyond two and the option play, because if they serve Miles Evans, he can tee up Benesh and he can come in and do some serious damage there. So that may be the game plan.
Of course, Andy Benesh just having played alongside Nick Lucena. Nick now stepping away from at least his playing days, as he's taken on the full-time job over at Florida State. That's one of the assistants for the Beach team. That's a tall order of a set right there. That thing was above our stadium height.
And you know what? It seems like most offenses are going away from that now. The high set. A lot of stuff is more tempo and movement, and it's rare that you see just the high up and down.
Well, it's interesting too, you think about Andy Benesh, his time at USC, where he was playing indoor volleyball. I believe he was a middle attacker. Do I have that correct?
Yes, you do.
So it's interesting because so many of those guys, they're not getting sets like that. They're quick tempo, up and down. That's a great swing from Andy Benesh.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a big adjustment when you are hitting those quick sets in college. But, you know, in college, he was a 4-year starter as a middle blocker, and as a freshman was 5th nationally in hitting. And he really stepped up. You know, as a senior, he led the team in hitting percentage, blocks, aces, and just really did his thing. And his game has translated onto the beach very quickly. Usually you see an outside hitter translating, but he's a middle blocker, and he's adapted his game well.
Still think one of my favorite moments from the 2022 season was calling that final with him and Phil Dahlhauser split blocking. That's going to be one to leave in the memory bank. And you know what he does bring a lot of to the beach are those swings where he's not necessarily facing the direction he's going, so those off-rhythm swings, that crossbody down line, I know he just missed it wide, but a lot of that is middle blocker, right? Keeping your shoulders open to your setter, and then being able to create angles just from your arm swing alone.
Somehow, under the arms of 11 miles of Blue 898.
This one's starting off just as I imagined. It's going to be an absolute battle. Benesh and Evans just with a slim 1-point lead, and Benesh and Evans also leading. But it's a slight, just one error. There's a lot of clean volleyball being played right now.
Nobody up, and Jake Landel finds the middle.
Smart shot. When you don't know exactly where to go, you hit it in the middle right here. That ball coming from high off the net's got to completely cross his body. He's not sure if there's a blocker or not, and he goes right in the middle. Priima comes back and misses it.
There's a 1-point game now as we near the tech timeout. Huge block! Andy Benesh sends that to the sand.
You don't want to challenge Andy Benesh. If you see him there, you want to go over him. He tries to go through him, and that's what happens. You pay dearly. That ball straight down.
And huge adjustment there from Priima. I really like that, swinging high and finding just enough space around the edge of the block of Andy Benesh. Great adjustment by Priima as it's a 1-point game into the technical timeout. Now, we talked about Andy Benesh and that incredible win he had alongside Phil Dahlhauser. Let's take a look back at this split blocking duo. Number 4 seed versus the number 2. Men's final starts now. We start on Phil Dahlhauser.
Let's get it.
And Phil already with the dig. Boy, Field playing down defense for the first time. Ow. High pocket. Phil Dahlhauser coming to play. These teams are high flying.
Oh my!
Wow. Another big swing from Troy Field. Again, Benesh with a second chance. Pace has got the ball. And a second ball for Andy Benesh. Tight. Again, that was back in Austin, a phenomenal finish. I like the koala celebration. Andy Benesh using Phil Dahlhauser as the tree there.
That was for sure my favorite.
There's a look at your 2022 winners. Andy Benesh and Phil starting off this season. See who will take home the Manhattan Beach title. Who will get their name on the pier. On Thursday, we saw Alex and April getting their plaque, their second put on as a team, as well as Tri and Trevor. Trevor looking to go 3 straight.
Yeah, that first year he did it with Reed Pretty 2 years ago, and then last year with Tri-Born, and looking to repeat. I don't believe that...
What a dig with the open hand.
I don't believe that Trevor Crabb has made a guarantee this weekend, has he?
No, but he did post and say, oh yeah, three could be real nice. There's that stab by Miles Evans.
That's a difficult play to go over on 2 with that off shoulder right there. Great athleticism.
Lev still looking for his serve right now. Hasn't quite found what he's looking for.
Oh, that ball tailing away almost catching the sideline, but ends up just a couple inches out.
One-point game now. Jake Landel at the service line. 30-year-old out of Long Beach, California. Went to Cal State Santa Cruz. Had his first AVP back in 2017. Out of system, and they just toss it over. Benesh is going to get a good look. And an even better swing.
Yeah, it's so hard to stop Andy Benesh at 6'9". He's hitting the ball at such a high point that he can hit not only straight down, but he hits a lot of the balls to the deep part of the court, which makes it even more difficult for the defender to dig. Yeah, I don't think in that celebration we were watching in Austin, I don't think Phil has ever had a celebration quite like that with a partner that's 6'9", you know, 240 jumping at him.
How tall do you think they are if they're on one on top of the other?
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw Phil kind of brace himself for that one. That was fun watching two guys at 6'9" switch block and play defense. And the thing, you know what makes Phil the most dangerous is when you put him in a challenge, a situation where it's like, oh, you can't do that. And you don't tell Phil that.
You want to bet? I would never bet against Phil Dahlhauser.
No, he can do it all, especially when he's motivated and challenged and really fired up as he was in Austin.
Phil Dahlhauser is out of the tournament here in Manhattan Beach. Going 1-2 barbecue. Here's a look back at that celebration. The full koala. There have been so many moments throughout this season in 2022 as you take a look at Andy Benesh's numbers that Phil Dahlhauser has just been like beaming in terms of how much joy, how much fun he's been having this season. I feel like we've seen Phil Dahlhauser smile more than ever before in this 2022 year.
Yeah, well, you know, I think he's cherishing every time that he steps on the court, and he was able to play with a youngster, Benesh, who's 27 years of age, get him his first championship. And, you know, at the end of last year, people thought Phil was pretty much retired, and then he came out and won the first two events with two different partners. And I asked him, hey, I thought you retired. He said, Dane, that was just from international competition. I'm still playing on the AVP, and he's having fun. How about that night in Atlanta where everyone started the match with sky balls? He had the biggest smile of his life then.
Yeah, without a doubt. What a swing, but Andy Benesh says easy. What a dig. We saw that when he was playing with Phil too. Sitting back in the pocket, pulls that out of his own pocket.
Yeah,
Beautiful play.
You don't see that often. I don't care if you're a full-time defender. This is an amazing dig. Steps, I mean, Nick Lucena probably taught him that one right there. Open hand scoop by Benesh and just making it look easy, converting it into offense.
You think back to Atlanta, how we saw Nick Lucena playing in his last AVP tournament. Phil Dahlhauser also out there giving a little bit of a roast as a send-off in true Phil and Nick fashion.
He was good. Phil, I think Phil like wrote his jokes out. He thought about it. I mean, he prepared.
I think the best was Nick Lucena's had more red cards than anyone. Something along those lines. Yeah. You know what? If Phil says it, it's true. Write it down in the archives. There's the total number of errors for both of these teams. Their efficiencies on full display for the number 7 and 18 seeds. Again, just 2 points separation here in set number 1. If you're just joining us, this is a match out of the contenders bracket. So it is win or go home for these two teams. Jake and Lev took a first-round win over Phil and John Sutton. Big swing from Priima and getting some of the fingers of both Benesh and Evans. They then lost to Tri and Trevor. That is, again, Priima and Landel. And a two-set loss. Tri and Trevor making quick work there, 15-21, 14-21. And then the win over Caldwell and Ratledge to then find themselves here in this matchup.
It's like we're slowly creeping to 21, and it seems like Benesh and Evans have kind of controlled this one, but yet Landel and Priima just hung around. They're right there in striking distance.
Oh, and a net violation. You do not want to have that on a pass like that. I think maybe Benesh was expecting a little bit more of a push there from Priima.
Yeah, jumped up a little bit off balance, ended up into the net.
Wow. You can see some of the all-time greats here, especially in Manhattan Beach. All the plaques on the pier. Karch Karai, Kathy Gregory, and of course Phil Dahlhauser was 7 as well. Phil, of course, no longer in this 2022 Manhattan Beach Open tournament. There's another good swing from Benesh.
The Fingers at 19-17, a 2-point lead with 2 to go.
(19-17) now. Pirouetting dig from Evans. And finding the corner. He still might be spinning.
Extremely aggressive play right there by Evans. A quick arm swing after the dig, turns around, does a 360, gets his bearings, and then he comes in, takes a look, and just bangs that one to go to set point.
2017. And the ace trickler, Andy Benesh, checks his glasses and looks to the crowd. First set going to Benesh and Evans.
Just awesome way to finish. They stepped up when they needed to at the end right there. It was a 1-point game, and they just expanded it to go to 21 quickly. So now they'll have the luxury of having that one-set victory as they go into set number 2.
And one more time for the brothers, Aiden and Aaron.
Well, to close out set number 1, we're going to give you the waste management serve of the day. And I feel like this is a little apropos right here. The trickle ace. You know, it's good, it's bad, it works in your favor, why not? The serve of the day from Waste Management. The ace from Andy Benesh. That's one way to get an ace. I don't know who he's looking at in the stands, but there might be some money on the line.
Andy Benesh likes that. He's always playing to the crowds, always got supporters, and he'll take it any way he can get it.
All right, so Benesh and Evans find set number 1 against Landel and Priima.
Get ready for a whole new wave of White Claw. New full flavor White Claw Surf. Sensational refreshment for a taste like no other.
We all know it's a good idea to recycle. But what happens to that aluminum can or all that paper after you put it in the recycling bin? Where does it go? What does it become in its second life? See how WM is always working for a sustainable tomorrow at WM.com/stories.
It's the choices we make that define us. Try and Trevor's coming off a tough, heartbreaking loss.
And ultimately, the enemy is within. Some people want it, some wish for it, but others make it happen.
Try and Trevor's super lethal, bringing fire and passion to the court.
How will you take charge?
Eager are these four now into set number 2. They've already got a point on the board. That's Benesh and Evans facing off against Landel and Priima. The jump set from Priima.
That's a really difficult play by Lev Priima to do that 360 and try to make it happen. It was a nice set up there by Landel, but right now it looks like that Andy Benesh and Evans are coming out with the same momentum that they finished in set number 1.
Right now they're working with a short serve, testing Landel, and that's what I'm talking about. There's the slime, the grime from Jake Landel. Just timing that attack perfectly, recognizing the full block of Andy Benesh, finding the just edge of his hand right there.
That's what you got to do when you're a shorter player. What are you going to do? You got to use it. I tried to make a living off of using the block of those tall players. Because remember, Landel is just 6'2". He's going up against the 6'9" Andy Benesh.
I think that's my favorite shot from Andy Benesh.
Well, I think it's his favorite shot. He's all crossbody.
Like all crossbody down the line.
It's hard to stop, too, because of that height and his mechanics. He's such a great server, or great hitter.
Yeah, and he also pairs that. He's got the heavy angle as well in terms of pace, driving that ball that direction, too. Option, but again, that's the second poke we've seen from Andy Benesh. From behind his back, just nice and easy, finding the sand.
Love the reverse poke right now. Everything was going one direction, so what does Andy Benesh do? Does a reverse, kind of pokey away. All the defense can do is watch.
A little bit of a toss gone awry there from Andy. He's getting Andy cheers when he misses serves. I'm a little confused, Dane.
They're serious Andy fans. You got to cheer him, especially when he's missing serves, right?
I can't tell if they're cheering for him, if they're fans of his, or the fans of the other side. I don't know, there's a group right now in the stands. They've got Andy Benesh dialed up. Oh, the hands. He learned that from Phil.
Nice play by Lev Priima, who's been a little bit quiet. You know, he hasn't been as active as we usually see, and he has to start to win some battles at the net if he's going to be victorious here. But he is up against one of the best, and that's Andy Benesh, who is playing with a ton of confidence right now.
You can see the numbers for these two teams up until this point. 3-4 now. Set slightly inside, and there's that heavy angle. Again, perfect delivery. Falling to his knees again.
Andy Benesh's hat came off on that one, but you know what? It's almost like he kind of models his game after Phil. I mean, he's got such great soft hands. He moves well.
And the falling sets.
Yeah, he's all over the place, and here it is. We get a look at it. Moves through, sets that ball back perfectly, and then the put away right there. He's got a lot of patience within those rallies. I like to see that.
Not a bad guy to try and mimic, that's for sure. Same type of build, same height. Things starting to warm up here in the South Bay. 19 attacks for Benesh, 10 for Evans. Evans hitting 800. I'd say that was a decent number. Sun's starting to peek through. It's a good sign for a good afternoon here at the MBO. There's the hecklers. Practically off the chest of Evans. Cuffing his hand. Great control there from Evans.
It's so great to see the progression of Miles Evans. He's just gotten better every time he steps on the court. He's in incredible shape, and more importantly, he gets in the right spots. He's got that feel for the game, and then he's able to convert that defense to offense and a point.
On to Lem.
These two, again, are looking to move on in this contenders bracket. They took a win first round. Then they faced off against Drost and Frischman with a loss. That one going 17-19. Oh, in a third set finish. Then Knoll and Tucker were their next round win, where they now face Landel and Priima. 32 teams, both on the men's and women's side here in Manhattan Beach. So a few extra matches will be played as you see the total distance for Priima on screen. Connexon bringing you all those next level stats. You can see the black trackers on the back of all of these guys' shorts. You know, it's pretty wild the amount of data that those guys can track. Some of the fun things that we were chatting about back in Atlanta, they even can recognize how fast these athletes are traveling on the speed. So from getting from point A to point B, saying one of the fastest was actually Brandy Wilkerson on the women's side, how she's able to move around the court. And we always talk about her physicality, but to see kind of those numbers come to life is really neat.
Yeah, it's so cool to be able to track how many jumps, how high those jumps are, how much distance traveled. And not only is it fun for the fan to see what's going on with those types of analytics, you can use them as training aids as well. A lot of the pro teams are using Connexon to track and find out when your optimal training is, when you're overtraining, when to kind of pull it back a little bit. So,
not to mention, they also, it's even height of your jump to maybe see how one surface compares to the other. Manhattan Beach notorious for having some of the deepest sand, and how that changes the height of your attack and the style in which you play.
Yeah, that would be interesting, right? To just do a test of maybe one player and take them to the different surfaces, the Manhattan Beaches, the Laguna Beaches, the Santa Monica, and because the reputation is, as you have said, there's some deep sand here, and
how much does it really change?
Is it really?
We need proof. Andy Benesh and Miles Evans having a conversation. Saying we're getting a little frustrated with the amount of times Priima and Landel, they are trying to control the pace of play. Down by 3, they're going to clean the glasses, they're going to do all those things. Priima saying, hey, I just fell on my face, let me clean it off.
Yeah, definitely some tension there, and you know, that's sometimes the way it works. Benesh and Evans want to speed things up. They have a little momentum. Landel and Priima want to slow some things down.
Yeah, if you're Andy Benesh there, you want that ace. Woo! Coming out of something like that. Nearly has it, but 7-9. Good read from Jake Landel. And again, you can see Benesh trying to make an adjustment there. Like he wanted to go up and then he goes, uh-oh, I need to swap block this, but still some cagey play from Landel. Very clean volleyball in this match. You can see the total number of errors between these two teams, just 3 errors in total. Ooh, that's a set.
Ball just out of bounds right there. You know, on that previous play, Miles Evans decided to go over on 2. That didn't work well, and then the high set to Andy Benesh, and he hits it out. You got a guy like Benesh, you set him every time, let him do his thing. Shot, not even close, so things have turned around quickly here. Andy Benesh would love to have that one back.
There's the angle. And it looks like Landel's starting to make an adjustment there in terms of where his defense is setting up, right? Getting a little bit more towards that sideline, making a shift. He gets a hand on that ball.
It's interesting. I think Andy Benesh and Evans, they need to set Benesh lower.
Okay.
He was a middle blocker. And so he's used to it as that ball's rolled out of bounds. Because they're setting the ball so high, he's waiting, everybody's waiting, the blocker's waiting. And if they're gonna set it that high, at least move him laterally, back sets, front sets, because Andy Benesh is huge. You want to run some tempo and have the blocker have to chase him.
Well, and Evans has nice hands. You can imagine that they could be running some of that tempo. 10-11 now. Again, the winner of this match will face the number 4 seed, Budinger and Field. The loser will be going home, or at least riding maybe a mile down the trek to Hermosa Beach, where the majority of these professional beach volleyball players live, and taking home a 13th place here at the granddaddy of them all. Again, I'm Cameron Irwin alongside Dane Blanton, Olympic gold medalist, as well as head coach of those USC Trojans. And I would say you got a few national titles to your name. Just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 12. I lost track, honestly, at this point. But check out these stands. This is what the Manhattan Beach is all about. Showing up at 8 a.m. this morning. This place is packed, not just here on the stadium. We've got other courts in action, 4 in total today on Survivor Saturday. Just take a look at how beautiful this really is. Manhattan Beach Pier just adjacent as well, as along with a couple other courts where the pier, it may look empty right there, but I'm going to tell you that's because everybody is behind those bleachers watching some of those outer courts all in action. We've got courts behind us here from Stadium Court, courts in front of us. There's a look at some of our outside courts as well. Those were filled for the last 2 days because this is also the only location in 2022 where the qualifier was held on the Thursday before action started on Friday.
And there was over 100 men's teams in that qualifier, so that was something special. And all those courts were just packed. We're down to 4 courts, Cameron. Just 4 in the setup. The cool thing about Manhattan, every time you show up, the AVP kind of gets really creative and changes it, you know, every year. The layout's slightly tweaked, slightly different. I love this layout. It's very vertical. We have a great view from our vantage point, and so do some of the VIPs and the general admission as well. But to be able to see center and then walk to the other side and see those other outer courts is really cool. And then to watch it from the pier, I mean, it's kind of like old school.
Well, and especially the volleyball is good wherever you go. Whether you're in stadium, you're on courts 1 through 4, it doesn't matter. You're going to see some pretty fantastic play, especially here on to Saturday. There have been a few chippy fans already here in Stadium Court because, again, this is where the birthplace of beach volleyball is. The chippiness, the education, everybody knows what this place is all about. Landel. Again, showing his prowess in terms of attacking from that right side, tooling the block. I feel like I just need to start creating my own stat sheet for certain players doing certain things. You go to that scouting report, I'm like, Jake Landel, tool. The tallies would just continue for him.
He's good like that.
That is a very well-timed block. That ball hit his hand directly.
So finally, Lev Priima getting involved at the net. He drops into this one at the very last second, feels it right there, kind of holds the follow through. A little more of that. He still, I believe, was a little bit late at his hand positioning, so he's got to make sure he breaks that plane of the net, and that'll get that ball being blocked straight down.
Again, they're calling for Andy when he makes an error. We're tied up at 13 apiece. A few hitting errors for Andy Benesh to this point. Here in set 2, and that's not gonna help.
And you get a 4-point run. And you get a 4-point run.
Back and forth we go. Andy Benesh closed out set number 1 with the triple ace. Right now he's having to fend some off in set number 2. Quiet platform from Benesh. He goes with the crossbody down the line. Nice read by Priima. And the error now from Evans. Priima and Landel finding a streak.
Well, it's a beautiful block right there, and you can tell Lev Priima a little bit fired up for sure as we take a look at the schedule the rest of the day.
Yeah, quarterfinals on Stadium Court. You got Cannon and Sponsel versus the number 5 seed in Muno and Wilkerson. The men will then follow Brunner and Schock, Crab and Sander. You can guarantee that's going to be a solid matchup. I mean, look at this Saturday, 2 versus 3, 1 versus 5. It's all over the place. And then also Allen and K-Spear. Yeah, you got to love seeing those two facing off against the number 2 seed. This is a team you always love to root for. Jeremy K-Spear doing some phenomenal things here at the Manhattan Beach Open, building a sustainability project here and really making sure that the AVP, along with the rest of this tour and all of our athletes, are doing everything we can to help out the environment. I think for every ace he earns here in Manhattan Beach, I think he's planting 10 trees.
Yeah, I did see that on social.
He's partnered alongside Waste Management to build that sustainability plan.
It's awesome. And looking at that lineup, I mean, all the top teams performing really. You know, Allen and K-Spear, the only team outside of the top 10 on that list.
Yeah.
So all the seeds doing their thing, and it's going to be exciting as this afternoon continues on. But what I was saying, Lev Priima got fired up, and he got fired up when Miles and Andy were putting pressure on him for hurrying up and cleaning the sand. And it's kind of like they woke up the sleeping giant right now. And right now, Andy and Miles look a little shaky compared to that first set.
Yeah, but you got to like that. Quick side out there in terms of the coming back out of the box from that timeout. Side switch. Huh. It's a unique serve.
Well, that was a high set.
Oh, poked overhead. Priima. And again, a monster block from Andy Benesh.
Yeah, his timing just impeccable right there, and he's pressing over the net just as the ball's being contact. Sometimes as blockers, you think that you need to jump after the hitter. You need to jump before the hitter and press over. So Benesh starting to really have an effect at the net.
Andy Benesh now with 2 blocks. And they're going to ask for the ball, whether it was touched, and they're going to say yes, in fact it was. No argument from Priima and Landel. 16 all. See if Evans and Benesh can steady out here. Here's a look. See if there's another touch. Jump set, open net, but it's going to be called. It would have been good.
It was tricky right there. You know, you're going off 1 foot, trying to be deceptive, and of course that's a judgment call, and I think it was the right call.
Oh, getting some extra help from the net cord.
Take whatever you can get right here. Here's the cross court. That ball was almost intended to hit in the middle. It just kind of ricocheted, took a very sharp angle, and that's why Miles Evans was unable to retrieve it.
Here's the switch at 17 to 18.
17.
Keeping things nice and close. Landel and Priima found a little extra something here in set number 2.
And who's rooting for Jake and Lev before set 3?
There's a look at the efficiencies from set 1 to set 2 for both of these 2 teams. A little bit different for both of them, 28 and 27. Push set, tight ball, and Andy Benesh says, not this time.
Wow, that, you know, usually the lower player has the leverage to push, but Andy Benesh left no questions here. He got up, he grabbed this thing, and just threw it back into the court. Smart play right there. That's a former middle blocker play.
That was like a slam dunk, just hanging his arms over the height of the net. 19 to 17, Benesh and Evans. Landel, Priima decide to take a timeout here. Slow things down. So who do you go to? Benesh and Evans. Right now we saw Benesh have a few hitting errors in set number 2. So you can maybe give him a look. Evans still hitting .579, leading the pack with these 4 athletes out on the sand in terms of total efficiency. In regards to set number 2, he's still leading the pack in this set alone at .385. So assuming you look to Benesh.
What impresses me, well, check it out. I'm going to head over there when I get a break to VIP.
I get a break after this game. That's exactly where I'm heading. That's the VIP section. Some of the great seats here on Stadium Court. There's a look at the numbers. Andy Benesh, his blocks now on up to 3. 2 of those have been rather emphatic in terms of the ball landing on the sand before Andy Benesh's feet do.
What's been most impressive is Benesh and Miles. They've really turned it up when they've needed to. And to get back control of this one right now, as they have at 19-18, they're 2 side outs away from moving on.
18-19, 2 side outs away, like you mentioned. And that ball, that set helped him a little bit extra, pushed it just outside that block. It floated, opening up the line right here for Andy Benesh. It is, go ahead.
It was a little bit wide of a set, but Benesh has that ability to make that adjustment.
It's match point for Benesh and Evans. Evans walking into it for the match. High off the hands, Landel goes full send. And that ball's out of bounds. Benesh and Evans are moving on.
Moving on into the top
It was really nice to see. They almost had a sense of when they needed to step up, and both those sets were kind of back and forth until you got to that 17-18 range, and then it was all Benesh and Evans, and they look sharp right now. They look in control of their game. They look like they're playing very efficient, and they look rested and energized.
All right, so the number 7 seed will be moving on. They look energized, that is correct, as they will then have to face off against the number 4 seed in Buttinger and Field. Let's look at Johnny Hayden. He's next up on Stadium Court, but let's walk you back through this matchup. Priima versus these two. That'd be Priima and Landel versus Evans and Benesh. Set number 1, we saw some big blocks from that man, the giant right there, but that might have been the dig of the match for me. Andy Benesh just sitting in the pocket and pulling one out of his pocket. Set number 2 was a little bit of a different story. The efficiencies for all 4 started to trail off just a bit. You started to see errors creep in from set number 1 to set number 2. But it was the heads-up play to close it out by the number 7 seed. This is a look at match ball. And Evans and Benesh looking to find a title together here in Manhattan Beach through the contenders bracket. Dane, walk me through these.
Yeah, a little more efficient for Benesh and Evans, and I think it was the time where they stepped up that was the big difference. They just have that confidence and they have that experience to know when to turn it on, and that was the difference.
So 7 is moving on in the contenders bracket. We got plenty more volleyball coming from the Manhattan Beach Open just after this.
Down.